And how serious is, or what is the scale of this Azov Nazi battalion thing? And because, Majid is a British journalist. He was on LBC.
Oh, Nawaz. Yeah.
So he was on the Rogan show recently. I thought he was interesting, did a good show.
Yeah.
But
he's gone a little around the bend, that one.
Well, his Twitter feed for a good couple of months was very much focused on these Nazi battalions. And I just don't know how relevant that was, and whether that was some kind of unnecessary misdirection to what was actually happening.
Partially. I think it's taking, in the spirit of honesty, I mean, you have to say that the Azov battalion was founded, and it has the sort of, what is it, the wolf's angel kind of thing, which they just changed, by the way, to the derision of so many people who are like tracking this and, obsessed with Azov. The thing about Azov is that there are certainly Nazis in it. There are Nazis in Ukraine. I saw a guy who had a patch on at the train station. And I said, what's that patch? And he's like, you don't want to know. And I was like, I think I already do know. And, so that stuff you actually see, and that is real. But there is a party in Ukraine that reflects those views. And I believe it's called Svoboda, which is freedom in Ukrainian Russian. And it doesn't break 1%. They don't get into parliament. They're not a popular party. Are there people in those military? Yeah, they're foreigners too. I mean, I did a piece for the Daily Beast a long time ago to a Swede who had gone to Ukraine to fight, who was a neo-Nazi, notorious in Sweden. And so, they exist. The thing about it, though, is that Azov has gotten bigger, much bigger, and they are more than that now. I don't doubt in any way that there's still a lot of these scumbags in there. But, you are talking about, and again, this sounds like the cliche response, but we're talking about a Jewish president of a country that is this, they're also very good fighters. This is everybody that I talked to said the exact same thing. It's a lot of military people. They're like, they're our best and they're totally fucking fearless. And they have the experience because they've been fighting since 2014. That's where they, after Crimea, that's where they were organized after that. So they have a lot of battlefield experience. And they're letting them fight. I don't believe, though, that it is a reflection of Ukraine as a country that is some sort of incipient Nazi Fourth Reich or something that is run by a Jewish prime minister. It strikes me as rather like insincere. But it is important to point out that definitely did start as a far right battalion. But I think it's a lot more than that now.
Have you dug into much about opinion within Russia? I bring it up. I have a friend who's married to a Russian lady.
Yeah.
Discuss this widely with him. He travels to Russia regularly with her. But after the war started, they had a phone call with the girl's mother. And her view was very much, yes, we are protecting, Putin's protecting Russia from an invasion of expansion of Nazis. And she fully believed this. Have you dug much into like
a little bit,
the understanding? Because I know there are people in Russia who vehemently anti this war. I saw a video recently of a concert where people were protesting against it.
Yes.
But is this like an age demographic thing?
100%.
So it's the youth get this is bullshit?
Yeah. I mean, I was in Venezuela once and they had, the Chavez government at that point had shut down all the newspapers, right? All the opposition newspapers. There was one remaining. And they said, like, well, there's the internet. And it's like, well, no, the Chavistas know exactly what the Putinistas know in the Kremlin, is that over a certain age, people are getting the news where they always got it, from television. And that is a thing. There is no independent television in Russia. There was Rain TV, and that was shut down at the beginning of the and Echo Moskva, the radio station, that was shut down too. So that's when you're in a full dictatorship at this point. There is no, if you cannot go out and say, I think this war is garbage, and I think that is, you're lying, all false pretenses, and we're killing our young, and the rest of it. And remember here, the high count, and this is from Ukrainians, you can't trust this, is 30,000. But we have a lot of stuff from Russians themselves that put this number at around 15. I think the UN has estimated 15,000.
What's the size of the army? Is it 180,000?
Oh, I don't know the actual size of the army because it's unclear now because we're trying to figure out conscripts and pulling people in. But the better example is that there was a conflict that essentially helped bring down the Soviet Union, and that was the idiotic invasion of Afghanistan in 1979, ultimately until Gorbachev negotiated that pull. 15,000 people died in that entire war.
Right.
We're talking about a couple months here. And so you would imagine there's a point, which is why you control the information. When you have 15,000 people whose father died, whose son was killed in the war, et cetera, that backlash is inevitable. It's going to start, and you're seeing it in small places. But as far as like controlling information, I mean, if you dare to call Russia anything but a dictatorship, I fear a friend of mine had to escape Russia under the cover of night, dressed as a delivery person to get out of her apartment, dressed as like an Uber Eats kind of like, because they were being monitored and they left. This is not a country you want to live in, right? And particularly when it comes to newspapers, there's no newspapers left. There was Novaya Gazeta, and that's gone. That is now gone, and they went online. And they said, if you refer to it as a war and not the special operation, you'll be shut down. The editor of that paper, who won a Nobel Peace Prize, was attacked, paint thrown on him. And
isn't it like a 10-year prison sentence for calling it a war?
15, I think.
15 for calling it a war.
For calling it a war, yeah. I mean, this is not a government who's too confident in its own foreign policy when you have to throw people in jail. I mean, this is in a way kind of worse than what happened in the Soviet Union during the Afghan war, because, at least after, Brezhnev and drop off Chernenko, and then you have the Gorbachev period where things are opening up and people are protesting more openly. Old stuff like Solzhenitsyn is being published, and then that war is happening and people are speaking out against it. Now, if you do that in Russia, you're in for a pile of trouble. I once had a conversation, not yelled at, but he gave me a sharp rebuke with Garry Kasparov when I said something about public opinion. And he said, no, there's no public opinion. You don't know. You cannot get good answer in Russia. You have no idea. And I was like, yeah, fair enough. And he went and explained, the nerves that people would have even responding to polling. And that's gotten a lot worse now, particularly on like a war footing when, it is the kind of dichotomy is somebody who supports Mother Russia and its fight against Nazis, because the Great Patriotic War was a fight against Nazis. Before, by the way, that it was an alliance with the Nazis and became a fight against the Nazis. You're doing that again, you're a traitor. And that's pretty much the only option, right? You're either a supporter or a traitor. So, I mean, it's a bad thing. And I've spoken to people, one older woman in particular, who gets her news from TV1, and they just can't imagine that people would lie to them like that. I get that in a way.
Can the youth get their news from their phones?
They do.
VPNs?
Yeah, they do. And like VPNs are banned, obviously, in Russia. You can't legally have a VPN. And when you go to Russia, there are no Russian VPNs. I mean, I used a VPN when I was in Russia. They told me to burner phone in a VPN. And yeah, there's no Russian IP addresses. I mean, it's all neighboring countries and stuff. You're not allowed to use VPN. Always a bad sign too when you're not allowed to use VPN. Iran, China, Russia. These are not nice places.
Do you think it's fair when people criticize the fact that there seems to be a large international support for Ukraine, whether it's Eurovision or
that's right.
Supply of weapons or raising money? Yeah, Yemen has been ignored for years.
Yeah.
I kind of do.
Yeah. I probably disagree on this slightly.
Okay.
I think you're right in the sense that people should pay more attention to this other stuff. I think the way that people process this stuff is they're not thinking about it, right? But what they are kind of understanding is that when they see a place like Yemen, there's an expectation, right? Yeah, sure, it's people look like you. That is, they dress like you, they look like you, they listen to the same music, they go see football matches, etc. That is an echo with people. But it's also when a bomb blows up in Beirut, do you pay more attention to that or the bomb in the same day that blows up in Glasgow? You don't expect it.
You don't expect it.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Yemen is that it's a long, protracted war. And I'm not saying this is the right way of looking at it. I'm just saying that people do have an attitude that in that region, there is a very recent, shall we say, tendency towards conflict. And so in Ukraine, which, particularly if you go to somebody like Lviv or something, it looks like Paris. I mean, it's this beautiful, very European looking. We've all been to European capitals. I think that is the resonance. When people inject race into that is because we don't care about the brown people. I don't buy that. And, you can't say that there aren't people who think that way. Maybe there are. I can't say that there aren't. But I would say that overwhelmingly that instinct but it also has to do with the fact that the Ukrainians are incredibly good at propaganda. And I don't think propaganda is a pejorative term. I just think it's a descriptive term.
Yeah.
Very, very, very good at it. You could just watch certain channels and Twitter feeds and think that the Ukrainians are winning. And they were in the north of the country, but not right now in the east of the country. But they did a great job of, ringing that kind of moral bell that says, come and help and support us. So I think that response is understandable, but I don't think that we should ignore the other countries that are going through this stuff.
Well, that using propaganda as a pejorative term, that's a really interesting point because I saw a lot of criticism. It's like, well, this is just propaganda. They're not really winning the war.
What the fuck do you want them to do?
There's almost like disgust. It's like, but hold on. It's a tool. You've got to give hope.
Yeah, Coca-Cola is trying to sell its product, right?
Yeah.
They're going to have an ad where it makes it look really delicious. The job of Zelensky and the government in Kiev is to sound the alarm that their countries, because they're a smaller, weaker country, they need people's support, and they did a great job of galvanizing the world, and that is both with weapons, and we can talk about that of whether that's a good idea, and I'm mixed on that of like $40 billion from the U.S. government, but I do believe that they should be supported for sure, and I think there's no doubt in my mind that the Zelensky regime is responsible for getting people on the battlefield from the UK, saying immediately, where we have international brigades, come and sign up, and we'll take care of you. And I talked to a lot of these people, and a lot of them were professionals. I talked to a British guy from the Isle of Wight who had been there since 2014. He's like, no, I'm relocating from the Luhansk, Donetsk region and coming up here to fight.